Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Rohit, and we're back again with a very interesting episode of Crypto Scoop FM. So, a lot has happened in the last 4 days. Iran Israel is the top headline, and it's only going crazy. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about the absolute bloodbath that is happening in the subnet alpha token markets, and what is it that we should do and how do we navigate these markets, right? So that's all what all of that is what I'm going to cover in this video today. If you're new here, hi, I'm Rohit. I've been in crypto for the last 4 years, held multiple exec roles across companies like Socket, Longhash Ventures, and Polygon Labs. Before that, I spent about a decade working in the TradFi with the Big Fours, so I know my way around financial data and numbers and businesses and industries, and I hope this analysis helps you because because I'm seeing a lot of FUD on my Twitter feed when it comes to all of the craziness happening in and around subnets. But having said that, I just want to say a quick disclaimer that none of this is financial advice. We're just having fun. So if you're going to make any financial choices or investments based on this video, it's all on you. Crypto is inherently risky, and all of this could go to zero, absolute zero. Let's dive in. So I'm going to share my screen here and take you through what's really happening in the market. Right. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the absolute bloodbath that has happened across all of the major subnets. I am on Gecko Terminal right now, and guys, their multi-charts feature is absolutely banger because now I'm able to look at all of my subnets in one go in on one web page, which is fantastic. So we can already see that subnet 2 Omron is down 47% from its high. Subnet 14 the last 7 days is down almost 40%. Gradients is down 30%. Subnet 16 Bittensor, which has now renamed itself to HashTensor, is down almost 40%. Shoots, which is the top subnet receiving 14% of all TAO emissions every single day, is down 32%. Right, subnet 44 score, which we spoke about in our previous video, is also down 30%. And pretty much the story continues. Templar down 32%. Gaia is actually holding up pretty well, only down 14% actually compared to all of the subnets that I'm tracking. Gaia and Dargon, which is subnet 4, stand out in terms of how much it has fallen. Subnet 77 is the only outlier, growing 16% amongst the major subnets with deep liquidity on the platform. And all of them, as you can see, from subnet 51, 3, 16, 64, 44, shoots, TAO hash, all of them are down like multiple digits. What does that mean? To answer that question, let's first start looking at the TAO chart. So you can already see I was just marking some indicators on the chart earlier today, and here is what happened, right? So on the 10th of June, the price of TAO actually recovered from the decline of the past week, and so it went to 350, then recovered to almost 442, right, before declining again to now at 339, which I think is interesting because this clearly has has been resistance and support range for almost the entirety of the chart. It bounced back from here, has held resistance at these prices as well, again bounced back again, again bounced back from here, and it's testing this line again. So I feel like there is every probability that price could go down further, and by further I mean I don't see any major support lines apart from this one, maybe at this range, like 250, 260. So this potentially could be, if the dip continues, could probably be the range at which we see TAO kind of coming down. So you have to think about it like with this pullback, I think this is giving you interesting opportunities to build a long-term position in TAO, which is exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm not buying at 339. I'll probably wait because I already have invested in a bunch of these price ranges. If it does dip to 273 and then maybe further to 224, and if I'm lucky to 170, this would be an apps. Like I would be ecstatic because I don't think the core story, the foundational story of Bittensor has changed at all. And so each of these dips provide you a buying opportunity. So that's how I'm looking at the chart. In terms of other metrics, I can clearly see, and one that I specifically want to highlight here is TAO in wallets. So this number has consistently increased. It dipped slightly from 31.2 to 31.06 around the beginning of this month, and then spiked all of a sudden from 10th to 11th, went from 31.1 to 31.4, and then since then it is now at 31.685. So clearly we're seeing more and more TAO neither being staked nor being used to trade in subnet tokens. Instead, we see a lot of them in wallets. We do see a decline in root, but it's kind of going on two directions, right? The decline in root is either going into people are holding TAO in their wallets because maybe they're scared and they want to dump, which is what we're seeing in the price. And two, we also see like percentage TAO and subnets, it dropped and then it's again starting to pick up, but it's still below its the levels achieved in the beginning like 2 or 3 days back on the 15th of June, right? So this is interesting data because we're seeing a spike here. We're seeing a gradual increase in TAO held in wallets, which kind of coincide well with, okay, maybe people are withdrawing, and then there is this price action, which is indicating that people are probably dumping their TAO tokens as well. Another important factor to think about here is the reserves are over injected. Clearly, the gap is increasing, which basically implies that more and more alpha tokens are being dumped, right? Which is why it is reducing the ratio of reserves over injected, which is again a bearish indicator for the price of subnet tokens. Same goes with the sum of alpha prices, again going on a decline. In fact, it is the lowest now in the entire month, and so this is probably I mean I'm not comfortable to say if this is like peak bear. Maybe it could go for dip even further, especially if the if the Israel-Iran crisis escalates and America is now part of this war. Then we can see catastrophic fall in prices, and that will be reflected mostly first in the altcoin market, of which TAO is a part of. So which is where I'm expecting when further fall could go down to as much as 170 in worst case scenario. So that's where we are. We're seeing these major dips across all of these subnets. We're seeing a dip on TAO, almost 20% drop in this past week, but I don't think the fundamental story of TAO has changed. And I'm going to share some tweets that I've curated for you guys, which almost, point to the story. The first one is by Joseph Jacks, who tweets that in the past 4 months, we have launched 20 projects on Bittensor with higher prices in FDVs than Bittensor itself after 1.5 years of its creation. DTAO is working beautifully. Guys, I think this is an incredible post because with the emergence of DTAO, we actually created a financial market around each of these subnets. Long story short, it gave all of us an opportunity to invest in these AI projects. And I think many of them are doing foundationally solid work. The story doesn't change. We're already seeing markets being built up around it. And so while, yes, there is a dip, and yes, there is that dip can largely be explained by the macro environment around the war. I think the fundamental story around Bittensor has not broken. We still see interest. We still see, projects coming up, doing their own thing, investors being active. And we are already seeing subnet alpha tokens performing better both in FTV and prices in comparison to TAO itself when it was a year and a half old into its existence. So clearly a bullish indicator, guys. The next one is from DSV. And this is interesting because they announced this on the 17th of June. So this was just earlier today, where they announced their $100,000 OTC investment in Subnet 13 Data Universe. Now, for those of you who don't know what Data Universe does, it's a decentralized data engine which scrapes, organizes, and scores vast amount of online content. It's kind of creating this large data repository which will be available to everyone across across the entire subnet network who are building models. And we all know data is the food for AI. Data is the foundational layer on top of which you build and train your models. So this is an incredibly great news that despite all of the craziness that is happening, and if we look at subnet 13, let me see if I have that chart here. So 4416. Let me scroll down further. You have 5710. Okay, let me just pull up subnet 13's chart because I think it's a good one to look at this price. So data universe subnet 13, right? If we open the 4-hour window and we draw out what the drop is, I think it looks fairly between 20 to 30%, but let me just drop to confirm. All right, guys, 40% drop in the alpha token of subnet 13 Data Universe. And right around this time, DSV fund, an early stage fund focused on AI infra, is betting big on this subnet, right? So clearly there is no change in DSV's outlook either towards the subnets or towards the TAO ecosystem or the Bittensor ecosystem as a whole. Then there was this announcement by Inference Labs, which is the team behind Omron Subnet 2, which, guys, again, going back, if I go look at Omron, Omron is down almost 47%. And they made this announcement that they're partnering with DChat, which is a decentralized chat platform, a communications platform, right? And they're going to work together to figure out, how to connect, verify, and interact through trustless AI verification, right? So clearly, business as usual, partnerships are happening, businesses are growing, and finally, I want to talk about some big announcements that happened this past week. One was a major collaboration between Rayon Labs, which is the team behind Gradients, which is subnet 56, and Templar, which is subnet 3. And they have joined forces to create a state-of-the-art AI model, guys. And how will it work? Templar will handle base model training, pre-training, while Gradient will focus on instruction fine-tuning, right? This is incredible, guys, because we're already seeing these subnets kind of coming together, leveraging each other's capabilities, and all three of these news stories, these announcements indicate that nothing fundamentally has shifted. In fact, these teams are only working faster and together to make things happen. There was another major announcement, and we covered this before, when Barry Silbert, who's the CEO of DCG, and now also the CEO of Yuma Group, which is the company, if you remember, setting up this AI studio in order to invest, support, and grow the Bittensor ecosystem and all of the subnets. Already, you can see they are backing so many different subnets, right? They're accelerating them, investing in them, incubating in them. They're also building a range of products and services to increase institutional participation. So nothing has changed there. It's clear that while the markets are probably dipping, the fundamental story of Bittensor has not changed. So I want to assure you guys that if you're looking into Bittensor, if you're worried at what's happening, stay put, relax, take a deep breath, and think 5 years down the line. We're still years away from fulfilling the vision of decentralized, user-owned, community-owned artificial intelligence. We should not confuse the trees to the forests. The big picture story still remains intact. The world needs a powerful alternative to OpenAI, to Google, something that is not controlled by the big tech. We have already seen stories of what happens when they control it. They can restrict access. They can train models with data that that essentially subverts truth. They can get involved in deep fakes, and there's no way for us to know. They can restrict our access. They will also be the beneficiaries of all the upside that is created out of this. And so I think there are too many reasons to remain bullish on Bittensor. Short-term market movements should not dictate your behavior, your thinking, your intuition for the market for Bittensor. So I would rather, much rather say that if you see this dip as an opportunity, because a lot of these subnets, like good ones like Gradients, like Shoots, Templar, all of them are receiving good amount of emissions. Like TAO, Shoots is already receiving 14%. You have you also have Templar receiving around 6%. So clearly there is an opportunity, because if nothing else, just through emissions you'll be able to recover all of your recover the downside, which I think is interesting. Like Templar recently flipped Argon to be now the second ranked subnet to receive the second highest emissions, followed by Targon, Gradients, and all of them, guys, all of them are down 20 to 30% in the last 7 days, which presents an interesting opportunity to start maybe DCA'ing in too many of them. The fear and greed indicator is at its all-time low. It's almost at 33. So that tells you that people are concerned about what's happening. But I'm not concerned. I have all of my TAO staked. I have my subnet positions logged in, and I will continue to remain so. I think we're far from even seeing an altcoin cycle coming in. And so I know there are a lot of people who say we're not going to see the same kind of alt cycle that we saw before, that markets have fundamentally changed, that Bitcoin should no longer be treated as an quote unquote equity, and it should be treated more and more like quote unquote an equity instrument. Guys, all of that is bullshit, and it's bullshit because the more people talk about these things, the less they are likely to happen, and that's exactly how it has always worked. The thing is, people cannot predict what the future is, and I think the past is a good indicator of how things will happen. We're still less than 1% of global financial rails. 99% of people don't know or care about what's happening in this space. And so trust me, guys, when I say we're early, I've been in this business for the last 4 years. I have no reason to believe and no reason to think that the fundamental story of crypto has changed. And in extension of that, this Bittensor story is only getting started. All right, guys, that brings us to a wrap. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. The more you do it, the better it is for this channel, so others can also learn and get into this opportunity. I will sign off with that and see you again soon.